Aging. That's the natural flow of life. We all know that from birth the path is unidirectional, passing from a tiny baby to the scholar age, leaving the moment of adolescence rebellion, followed by the maturity of adult life. Even with medicine and surgical intervention, the earnest will never be avoided.
Oh, young boy, if only I could be your age again.
But are we sure this works for all the animals on the planet? Can you imagine if, at the end of life, we could rewind the tape and go back to being children? Well, it can. This is the Turritopsis dohrnii, a particular and tiny cnidarian present in the Adriatic and in the Western Mediterranean Sea.
The adult is smaller than a corn seed, and despite the dimension, she has an incredible superpower, being potentially immortal. But wait, naughty doesn't mean immortal like a vampire or any epical creature that cannot be killed. Let's have an overview of this species' life cycle.
The life journey of this tiny, incredible creature begins as a free-swimming larva, the so-called planula. Thanks to water currents, the planula can move around the world, and once it finds a satisfying, comfortable rock, it can settle down and start developing tentacles and mouth. The anchored form, now called polyp, starts growing and dividing asexually, branching into a sessile colony of many identical individuals.
But like in all families, some individuals decide to flee away once grown up.
The polyp buds evolve into a different morphology, some immature jellyfish called ephyrae, which are then released from the colony.
No worries, they won't sting you while you are carefully swimming.
After just a few weeks, the ephyra becomes strong and magnificent, a beautiful adult medusa with up to 90 tentacles. Now ready to reproduce, our Turritopsis releases its gametes into the water, and if fertilization occurs, they can develop into new Turritopsis larvae. But sometimes, things don't go as planned. Even if the adult can be injured because of predators, starvation, or environmental stress, where the other creature would simply succumb, Turritopsis instead shows its incredible power. It is one of the very few creatures capable of something truly remarkable. It can quite literally rewind its life and go back to its youth.
When life gets rough, it says, "Nope, I'm starting over."
First, it retracts its tentacles and begins to shrink. The jelly-like layer of its umbrella, called mesoglea, located between her skin layers, starts to thin out. Then she transforms into a weird little blob, a cyst, protected by a chitinous outer coat.
Kinda like a crunchy M&M's.
This cyst settles onto a surface, and in about 3 days,
Ta-da! She's back to being a baby polyp, ready to being alive again.
what's inside the cyst is still a bit of a mystery, but it's clearly where the magic happens. The really weird part about this process is that regeneration doesn't rely on ordinary stem cells, which usually play a central role in regeneration ability among animals. That suggests something else occurs.
That's the transdifferentiation superpower. I know, it's a weird word and sounds complicated, but let me explain it with an example. Imagine a firefighter that one day wakes up and decides to turn into a Michelin's cooker. And so it turns, jellyfish cell transdifferentiation works like that.
Within the cyst, fully mature cells change their identity, they lose their specialization and become all the same.
Sort of forget what they are.
Then they redifferentiate into a brand new cell types. While in the cyst stage, Turritopsis turns on a bunch of overexpressed genes linked with telomere maintenance, as well as many genes involved in protein and DNA repair. telomeres are repeating DNA sequences that act as protective end caps on chromosomes. Each time a cell divides, DNA is replicated and telomeres shorten. In humans, this shortening continues until it reaches a critical level at which replication is no longer possible. Cells will no longer duplicate or repair themselves, causing aging and eventually cellular death. In humans, this physiological process, along with DNA damage and telomere dysfunction, may be linked to oncogenic activity, increased reactive oxygen species activity, and cellular senescence. Turritopsis instead has an enzyme called telomerase that pushes back this limit. By regenerating and repairing these end caps, it is potentially capable of unlimited cellular renewal. During the C stage, Turritopsis temporarily shuts down genes involved in cell division and differentiation, helping preserve genomic integrity.
Almost like putting your body in airplane mode while you figure out the next move.
Oh, that's so cool! I want task differentiation as well. Haha! Young boy, now I can be your age again.
Ah, dear lady, that would be cool for sure. Imagine if we could have the chance to block disease like cancer, stop cell senescence, and other natural and physiological process of aging. Well, maybe that would also be a little scary. However, I guess it doesn't matter. For the moment, let's just admire our tiny Turritopsis friends and let's get the maximum from our natural, unidirectional human life.